Unlike a lot of other teams in our peer group, the Badgers are 2-0, but fans aren't overly excited about it. The preseason, if you will, is over, and it's time to play the big boys. I'm Rajiv. He's Justin. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective. Woo-hoo! Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome into the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajiv and Justin, back together on a Sunday evening to talk about all things Wisconsin Badgers. On today's show, the Badgers beat South Dakota this past Saturday to go to 2-0 on the year. We go through all the positions, give you our grades and biggest storylines. We'll hand out some weekly superlatives and then turn our attention to Alabama as the 4th-ranked Crimson Tide head to Madison next weekend. We are at the Bucky Report on Twitter, YouTube, and wherever you can find your podcast. If you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button so you know when we make new content. We've got a lot of new listeners to start off the season, so definitely hit that subscribe button or the follow button. The podcast you're listening to, however you consume your content, definitely, we'd love to have you back. Justin, we've had a day now. How you feeling? How you doing? Both of our NFL teams lost this weekend, which is never any fun.
Yeah, we lost our quarterback.
However, the only silver lining, and I know there's a lot of Packer fans on this chat, so I hate that any quarterback gets hurt, but the Colts play the Packers next week, so you and I are not going to be friendly next weekend. But
that's fair and likely true.
I'm not hating the fact that Love's not going to be in there, and we're now all of a sudden 3-point favorites, which is crazy because we're not going to beat the Packers, but we'll see. Anyway, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I got to get away from Badger football for a day, so feel better.
And here we are bringing you right back to it. Yeah. Give the people what they want. All right, so we're going to start.
People got a good bit of my venom yesterday on Ryan's show, so let's see what I have left in the tank.
That's true. We were on the Locked On Badgers reaction show yesterday, as we always would, as we will continue to be throughout the year. And yeah, there was a lot of vitriol. There was a lot of, and if you were listening to that show, Justin and I got into a bit of a heated discussion about Ches Malusi, which I think might happen again, but we'll see. All right, we're going to start with a quick, different kind of a segment. 3 up, 3 down, Justin. We're going to talk 3 up, 3 down. We'll start with, and if you're listening to this, if you're listening to it live, go ahead and put it in the chat right here. 3 ups, so 3 positives that you can take away from the game. It can be player, it can be coaches, it can be scheme, it can be anything related to the game. 3 positives, 3 negatives. Hit me with your 3 ups right now.
Katie Akamelli, number 1. Number 2, CJ Williams having a nice day. Something that was not necessarily expected. And then number 3, Tackett Curtis coming in and doing some nice things. And I will say him and Allegro I'm going to combine them on that one. But they came in and added some energy and some athleticism that we had been missing these first 2 games. So hopefully we see more of that.
Yeah, agree with you on those. So number 1 for me is youth. So just in general, like you said, Tackett Curtis, Elijah Hill, some of the new guys, the newcomers, Christian Allegro that we're starting to see more of, and I expect to see more of Xavier Lucas as well before he unfortunately got hurt. Have we heard anything about Xavier Lucas, by the way?
I haven't heard anything since. I mean, there'll be media availability on Monday, and that's when we'll probably hear if he's going to be missing or not. But we'll see. Hopefully nothing major. Maybe just tweak something because of did he slip or did he?
He slipped. So when he went back to the back of the end zone, there's that sort of tunnel area, and that's what he kind of slipped on. So I feel like that's that. The second one for me is the bend but don't break defense. So it's the don't break part, which I'm saying is a positive because I will talk plenty about the bend, but I think it's important to highlight, and I'm always going to be that guy to find it. Like the one drive, which I talked about on the yesterday show, the one drive was brutal. That 4-play, 75-yard drive to start the second half. It's absolutely awful. If you take that away, we gave up 3 points to South Dakota. And we looked like we were having a bad rush defense the whole time, but we did stop them from scoring, other than, of course, the muff punt. So I'm saying that to me is a positive, the don't break. And the third one is the playbook opened up a little bit. We saw a couple flea flickers, which were unsuccessful, but we did see the first drive, by the way, that in itself could be a positive. Hit me with your 3 down. Give me 3 negatives about the game.
I want to push back on the bend but don't break, because it's quite possible that we see the breaking this next week.
Okay, but I mean, the fact
right.
that we haven't given up a ton of defensive points in the first 2 weeks is not a bad thing. Like, I mean,
it's not necessarily, but like we also shouldn't against these teams. Like an average defense shouldn't give up a ton of points to these teams.
Fair. That's a very fair point.
So we'll see. There's going to be a massive step this next week to find out just what the defense actually is. Run defense, number 1 to me, was quite frankly awful in this game. I realize people are going to play if you take out the one drive, it really wasn't that bad. And it's like, yeah, but the one drive did happen, and we got gashed by a team that should never gash us. Like, we should never we got abused and the ball shoved down our throat by an FCS team. That's a problem. That should never happen for a Power 4 team that's been recruiting Power 4 players for, it's not like we have a bunch of guys that didn't have offers from other Power 4 programs. We did a bad job recruiting the defensive line prior to this staff coming in, and now we're reaping the benefits of it. Number 2, I thought the offense got really tight and conservative after those first couple drives when we got the lead, and it's frustrating to me because this team just isn't good enough to just sit back and be like, well, we got a lead, we can sit now. That was very Paul Christian again. Like, it was something we talked about in the first game that it felt that way. I felt like there was a lot more of that in this game, where it's like, once we got a lead, it's like, no, you just continue to build the lead. You get up 4 touchdowns, then go ahead and do whatever you want. I don't care if we run the ball every freaking time once we're up 28-3, but get to that point and prove that you can be explosive and do it for multiple drives, because 2 drives isn't enough to me. 2 drives is not going to win a game against Alabama. You're going to have to do it 4 or 5 times if you want to win that game. And in order to do that, you're going to have to do it multiple times in the first half. And I don't know if we can do that yet. Like, after we gave up and just stopped being creative, we couldn't do anything against them really. We moved the ball still, but we kind of just wasted time. Like, we really didn't put any points on the board. And then number 3, I think that right now, to me, it's that I'm looking at the 2 deep, and it feels like there's guys that clearly shouldn't be in spots that are just upperclassmen. And I think that needs to be rectified. And I look at it, and it's just like the younger guys are just more talented, and it seems obvious whenever they hop on the field.
Yeah, that's actually one thing we were going to get into tonight. I think that's an interesting point. We talked about it yesterday. I want to dig into it more. When we go through our positions today, we're actually going to talk about like players you want to see start that aren't playing right now. Like, what do you want to see as we go by position? So my 3 downs: run defense between the 20s. We obviously, talked about that. Inability to put the nail in the coffin. I just feel like that's what Badger teams of old used to have, is that sort of like that innate ability to realize, okay, it's time to put these guys away. Now, the 4th and 1 play that the Fickell called, okay, that was a put them away play, but really we never had that. And it's weird to think that we've had 2 back-to-back games against lesser opponents where we're in the 4th quarter, we're like, ooh, it's still a game. That's not acceptable. And the last one is, while the special teams had some positives, especially with Vakos and Bertram's and Lom, what is that his name? The kicker, the kickoff guy, the punt return gaff. There's always something every week, and if you have those kind of gaffes against Alabama, USC, Penn State,
in the game,
you're losing. You are losing the game, and that to me is a killer. Okay, Justin, let's go through position by position.
I want to dive into this one real quick that Zach Bart set up here first. I feel like we'll see a lot of these issues cleaned up when recruits start playing over transfers and should supplant what's there. It's not just transfers that are a problem here. Like, there are guys that are just not overly talented that are holdovers from the previous regime. So it's not like we need the young guys to start over transfers. There's some talent issues that were on this roster, and they tried to cover them up, but you can only do so much through the transfer portal. It's going to take a few recruiting classes for Wisconsin to build up the talent depth. But we're not playing to our talent level either right now, which is the other part of the problem. We have guys where I don't know if it's a mentality thing or something like that or a confidence thing, but this team is not playing to the level that they should be for the level of athleticism and ability that a lot of these guys have.
Yeah, what's interesting about the transfer portal is, I feel like a lot of teams, by the way, are struggling early in the season, like i.e. Oregon, which we'll talk about a bit. I mean, Iowa, there's a lot of teams that are not 2-0. Oregon is, but they look pretty bad. And this is the age of the transfer portal means that you have players that you haven't played with, and there's going to be differences. There's going to be issues at the beginning. Hopefully we can rectify some of those. A couple more things in the chat. Will Hannah, always got to put this up. Tonight's meal, Dyson burgers, 1 mushroom and Swiss, 1 pepper jack fried onions. Tonight's beverage is Packer Land Pilsner. Mine, of course, is Spotted Cow. I'm still working through that. So what we're going to do, Justin, is we're going to go through position by position and talk about grades, any other big storylines we want to hit on, and then a player or players that you're not seeing play that you want to play a bit more. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and pop this up here, some snap counts. This is just defensive. I did not pull offensive stats. I'm sorry I didn't have time. I watched a lot of NFL today, so I didn't have a chance to do the offensive numbers. But so the interesting thing is here, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this that's popped up on the screen. If you're listening to this on a podcast, we'll talk through it. There were a few players that had more, that considerably more, that it wasn't just a scheme thing. They were clearly trying to get them more on the field than they were last week. And those are highlighted in green here. So that's Ricardo Hallman, Xavier Lucas, Jaheim Thomas, Leon Lowry, Aaron Witt, and Elijah Hills. So that's good. Guys that their snap counts kind of went down. Niger Forkerin just a bit. His could be more scheme stuff. Max Lofi, RJ Delancey's definitely went down. Allegro's went down from 10 to 5. Daryl Peterson's, John Pius, Kurt Neal, and Cade McDonald's definitely took a bit of a nosedive. And then one of the things that I'm just going to bring up that stayed the same was Dylan Johnson, who had 6 in the first week and 6 again in the second week. So hopefully that changes. Before we get into positions, Justin, here on this snap counts for defense, anything surprise you or jump out at you that you kind of wanted to comment on for these?
The Allegro one is kind of shocking to me. I think that he should be out there more. I just think that I haven't seen anything through 2 weeks now against an inferior opponent where Jaheim Thomas and Chaney have shown me anything that says these guys are difference makers. And I think that these are the type of opponents where those two guys should look dominant if they're going to be a good tandem. And they just aren't making enough plays. So I just don't know what to make of those, that situation where it's like these younger guys flashed instantly the second they get on the field. And I realized Tackett had obviously injury issues he was coming back from. I don't know what the deal is with Allegro. Allegro just feels like a guy that they just didn't have promises made to at this point. Like, he's younger. We have less that we've owed him, or we've offered him, so to speak. And I think that this staff needs to really just make a decision right now and stop worrying about promises that were made when guys came in. And I realize that the risk that comes with that is then you get a reputation of you're not being honest with recruits. But this staff, if you want to hold a job, like, you got to do whatever you can to put the best product on the field that you can. Because if Fickell goes 6-6 this year, and it's because he started guys that he made promises to over guys that are more talented, we're going to have a problem. And yeah. I feel like right now that I'm only going off of what I can see, and I can't obviously follow it, but it's like Tackett's got a little bit of that Leo Chanel in him, where he's just a pit bull that, like, you let him off the chain and just let him go. And the other guys just don't react like that.
Well, like, Tackett's going to get a lot of run this week, obviously. Yeah. So, by the way, I'm sorry, I forgot. I was using a list that I had last week. Tackett had 17, by the way. Yeah. Brandon Lane did have 4. Those were a couple that I did not put up there. Brandon Lane's, to me, was a bit low. I was hoping to see more of him. But yeah, first of all, I like the fact that Elijah Hill's got more. Okay, that's really good for me. And I think that's nice to see. I want Dylan Johnson to get more. I like that Aaron Witt, who went from 15 to 22, because obviously we used him as a bit of a, almost like a third defensive lineman at times. And of course, Xavier Lucas, I think, is good. Nothing else really surprised me on the snap counts. But we'll start, Justin, with quarterback. So let's do a grade and then anything you want to bring up from the quarterback position with Tyler Van Dyke. What's your grade on him and what are your thoughts on him right now?
I think I'm probably a C- again. I mean, he was fine in this game. This is a team that he should be a difference maker against, and he's just clearly not. Like, he made that one play was great. That was a great setup of a play there because we had been running that read option for him to throw out of that. It's great to get that on film, but there's a lot of stuff we did this week that I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, this isn't something that we're going to run on a weekly basis. Like, let's get the plays out there and get comfortable with the stuff that we're going to be running regularly. Not the stupid flea flicker garbage that, fine, it's something flashy you threw into the game, but this is not something you're going to be running against Bama because there's too much risk of something going wrong on it. You want as few moving parts as possible on a play against them because one little hitch or something goes wrong and suddenly you have a fumble and now you just gave them the ball on your 30-yard line or whatever. But yeah, I haven't been super impressed. I wasn't impressed with the game plan after the first couple of drives in this game, period. I just felt like we got really conservative and just dialed everything down, and his accuracy wasn't great in this game. Like, there were a couple throws that he missed that were gimme throws that need to be there, where guys are running crossers. There's a tight end one that was an obvious one on a 3rd and short, would have been a first down. It's like, you can't miss this stuff. Like, these are the throws you want to go to the NFL. You're not missing on a 5-yard crosser over the middle on a tight end.
Yeah, he doesn't quite look like redshirt freshman Tyler Van Dyke. I think we can agree with that so far. I'm at a C+ with Van Dyke because the plus comes from the first drive, which I thought he looked excellent on. And there were times where I saw him kind of flash. What I thought I was expecting to see better of this year, which I haven't yet, is his running ability, which, boy, I tell you, he looks slow. It looks like he could be carrying an injury of some kind. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I feel like he appears a bit slower than I had expected, and I want a little bit of a threat, and Longo really likes having a little bit of a threat. But the first half was crisp. I think that he has the tools he needs to really – he appears kind of off to me right now. It's just not quite clicking. Did I see a bit of an improvement in communication with receivers? I did. And I feel like that's a good step because last week we talked a lot about his sort of lack of connection with Pauling and whether or not he really, is in sync with those guys. And that has improved. So I think there is a step to be made there. And hopefully, next week, everything, who knows what's going to happen next week. Robert Sorensen says B. We had someone else put C up here. I also B-, but I still want to feel a little bit more. Will Hanna says TVD looks like he's carrying an injury, or maybe a piano. Matt Van Grin says my grade is a B- for TVD this week.
I'll just give it from a running standpoint. I just don't think he's overly agile. I think he's straight line, and that's about it. Like, he's not a guy that can move side to side well.
But wasn't he more at Miami? I feel like when I watched highlights, I saw a different.
But a lot of his runs that I saw with him was like him just running up the gut, and he's got some good speed. Like, even the one of the first runs that he took, you saw some giddy up, and then all of a sudden, like, it's like he downshifted right after he got his initial burst. Like, he tried to make a cut.
Yeah.
And it just went. He just tripped over his own feet.
Your downshifting is the right word for it. You're absolutely right. I know. I remember exactly what you're talking about. All right, Justin, running back. Give me a grade for your running backs.
Can I give Yakimelli like an A-, and then everybody else or the other? Well, Malusi just wasn't good in this game. He just wasn't. You can't give him 16 carries and he gets less yardage than Yakimelli does on half as many carries. Like, that's brutal. And I get wanting to give him an opportunity near the goal line, but to me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you don't have more power than Yakimelli. Like, you just don't. And Ryan made the comment that Yakimelli, that he thinks he maybe Chaz has better vision. I'm like, I don't think so, because if that was the case, then he'd be finding the seams and breaking 13 yards or 29-yard runs then too. Because that's part of the deal. Like, you got to be able to see it. And he's not finding his way through traffic. So to me, I would say overall, the running backs, I'd say C+. but I think Cade's probably an A-. And I think the other running backs were kind of like B-, C+-ish. Like they were getting their feet wet. We didn't really see a ton of flashing from them, but they didn't also look like they were in over their heads.
So here's my take on the running back room. I think there's not a star in this room. Okay. So that to me is clear. Walker he's hurt. He was hurt this week. We're not really sure when he's going to be back. Hopefully he plays on Saturday against Alabama. So this room is basically running back by committee. And I feel like you're going to have different guys flash in different games. Obviously, Cade, fantastic game. He gets an A from me for sure. The room, by the way, gets a B from me. I think Ches has a place on this team. And as much as we disagree on this, because I think you want him like on the bench and not carrying anything. 16 carries is too much when Yak gets 8. I agree with that. I would have liked to have seen more Yak yesterday. I would have liked to have seen more of Dupree and Jones until they came in at the end, but that's fine. I respect it. 16 carries for 65 yards, whatever I think he had. That's not good enough. I agree. There's no doubt in my mind that that's not good. However, there will be a game that comes up where he has 12 carries for 100 yards because he broke one, and he'll have those games where he flashes. He has scored 3 touchdowns, I believe, in the first 2 weeks, and I know one of them was a 1-yard touchdown. But I do. What?
It was a 1-inch touchdown.
You're right. It was a 1-inch touchdown. But here's what I'm going to say about this. If he would not have gotten in on that 1-inch play, you would have roasted him for not getting in on that play.
I absolutely would have roasted him.
So therefore, you have to give him his flowers for actually scoring the touchdown.
For doing the bare minimum.
What I'm saying is, like, you would have roasted him if he wouldn't have got in. The point is, a touchdown's a touchdown. He's scored touchdowns for this team in 2 weeks. I like that. I like that he's finding the end zone. And yes, I know they're giving it to him at the end, and Walker's probably going to be the short down, yardage back, and that's fine. Ches has a place on this team. I still like Ches. I am a Ches apologist. I'm not going to sit here and, I'm in the Discord during the game, and people are blowing up on Ches Mosley. I understand a lot of people are not high on Ches, and that's fine. But I'm not saying I'm like, he should start every play and he's Jonathan Taylor. No, he is part of this running back by committee room where certain people are going to flash on certain games. He is going to play an important role for this team. Is he going to have as many yards as I thought he would? Probably not. That's fine. But if it's Yak 1 week, if it's Walker 1 week, if it's Malusi 1 week, I'm good with that. I want the room to function well as a unit. And frankly, I think it has been.
So here's what I want to say. I know you're bringing up the touchdowns. Is there any other back that you don't think gets those yards? Because I don't. That's the point that I'm making. Is yes, he did it, but literally every other guy that would have carried there probably would have done it too.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
obviously we can't say with certainty, but like most of the other guys have looked better. Like Tyree has averaged a higher yards per carry. Yakimelli has averaged a higher yards per carry. So I realize it's not all the same run play that they're running. So we can't obviously compare apples to apples with 100% certainty there. But I feel like when it comes down to it, there's not a lot where I look at it that I feel like he's maximizing what's potentially available. And that's what it comes down to for me. We need whoever can go out there and get the maximum we can potentially get out of a certain play. Right now, that's Yakimelli. He's been doing the best job of maximizing that. Tyree might have some of it. I haven't seen enough of him yet to really get a feel for what he is. He runs hard, but I can't honestly say I have a great read on his vision as of yet. The young guys, I do like what they had shown, but I don't think that they flashed so much that I'm looking at it like, whoa, Dupree
they were in there.
Run,
They were in there with the backup offensive line as well, which we know the offensive line depth is really not there. Look, I mean, I get it. There's certainly a lot of people. We're going to get just some comments here. Matt Van Grinson says, Chaz has averaged 2.8 yards per carry against a MAC team and a good FCS team. KPB says, how much of this can be attributed to the O-line? We're going to get to the O-line when we talk about those guys. So I want Justin's take on the blocking. Tyler says, Chez's role as a veteran leader, not necessarily as an impact running back on the field. I think it's coming to that point. I wouldn't disagree. Zach Bartz I'm not out on Chez altogether. I'm out on him being RB1, getting a majority of the carries when others are outshining him. He's a complementary depth piece on a running back by committee room. Exactly, Zach. That's what I've seen from the first 2 weeks. That's not what I said preseason. I will admit to that. I definitely thought it was going to be a very Chez heavy attack with Walker mixed in. It is by committee, and that's exactly what it is. And I think that everyone's got their role, and they're good. And so, but I guess my point is the room itself is competing. They're playing okay. I mean, I'm not. They're going to get better. They're going to be okay. There's going to be some games where they flash. There's going to be some defensive lines they have a tough time getting through, and maybe they should have had more yards per carry in general as a group than they have in the first 2 games. But the offensive line, they are getting hit in the backfield a lot too. And Chez, I feel like last week really broke a lot of tackles. And so there's a lot that goes into the running game. But I think in general, I'm not unhappy with the way the committee has done so far. And JB also had a comment here. He definitely is out on Chez Melisi. But there you go. Chez has flashed in 1 game in 3 years. 3-8 Buffalo. Yeah, Buffalo at 90-yard play. And then Cujo says JB, he flashed on 1 play. So there you go. All right. Wide receiver, Justin. Give me your grade for wide receivers yesterday. I'll actually go first on this one. I kind of thought it was a B- for me overall, B to B-. I kind of struggled with that. I just feel like CJ Williams looked okay. I think Bryson Green looked fine. In general, though, I think what I expected was a bit more separation, which we've said that word many times on this show. When you're playing that kind of a defense. A defense, by the way, South Dakota is no slouch team, by the way. This is a very good FCS team. They basically are like a MAC school. That's in essence what their quality is. If they played in the MAC this year, I think they finished middle of the pack. So I think that's really what they are, maybe even on the upper side of it. And you saw Notre Dame lose to a MAC team yesterday. So they're a decent team. That being said, their offense returned 9 starters. Their defense did not. And I expected our receivers to get a bit more separation. I was overall pleased with the better sort of cohesion that they had. So I'll say kind of a B, I guess, is my final grade for wide receivers. Tretch needs more time, needs more snaps, needs more activity out there. And I think that's the one thing I did want to pull up Tretch's snap counts. There weren't a ton.
Yeah, he wasn't out there a lot.
He wasn't out there a lot, and that's so he had 18 total snap counts, which that's not the best. And I feel like Will Pauling had 38. So there you go. What's your grade on wide receiver?
I think B- is probably appropriate. I think the offense in general, it's hard to go super high with this. Obviously, CJ Williams had a really nice game for him. Way to make the play on it and get the job done. Almost had a second touchdown, just was barely short. So that would have been a day for him, man, if he had done that. Like, that's basically a season's worth of touchdowns for him. I think Pauling is solid. I think we'd all admit to being a little underwhelmed so far with what we've seen from him. I would have expected, it's not that I expect huge numbers, but I expect him to kind of get in like that 80 range on a game-by-game basis, and it doesn't seem like we're getting there right now. I thought Anthony had a great catch early, and that was a heck of a throw from Van Dyke on that play, rolling out and throwing a dime out to the sideline to Anthony on the one. Threw another really nice ball. Was it Green that caught the other one that was crossing over the middle and ran through?
Green, yeah, that was Green, yep.
So those were great plays. We need to see way more of that. It's so frustrating to see us drop like 100 yards of offense or 100 yards passing on like 3 plays. And then the rest of the time in this game, we probably had maybe 100 yards combined between the other like 15 completions or whatever it was, or 11 completions. So just was rough in terms of that. Like I don't feel there's, from a separation standpoint, I'm looking at this and it's like, I feel like there's more than what we're seeing, but something's not right here. Like, I don't think that the wide receiver room is terrible, because there are teams that have worse wide receivers than what we have that are getting more production, it seems. And right now, I don't know if we're just being awfully over conservative with everything, but there's just no cohesiveness to the offense. Like, I don't know what they're trying to do other than run the football. The passing game doesn't seem like it's playing off of it at all. We're not really play actioning ever. So what are we really trying to do here? Because there's no deception in what we're doing. It just seems like we're randomly like, throw this play. And it's like, okay, the good play callers have like a rhyme and reason to what they're trying to do. Like there's a pattern to what they're trying to get across to kind of bait the defense into things.
I certainly hope that improves this week because you're right. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm getting a few comments in here. First one, going back to running backs, Will Hanna says, with all due respect, I think so much of the high regard for Ches from Rajiv and Ryan is because of what Ches has gone through. Will, that's a good shout. I mean, that's true. I do really feel for Ches. And that's, I mean, I as a human, I just feel like he's gone through a lot. And yes, I do root for him more than than I maybe root for other guys that have his exact same production level. I think that is a very fair call out of me. And that's true. I mean, I do have some of that for sure. Zach Bart says wide receivers did okay. It just feels like we're running very limited plays and route schemes. Shouldn't be hard to get guys like Pauling and Tretch open versus WMU or FCS South Dakota. We can't get a one-on-one BG shot. I mean, obviously, I agree with that. I've been calling for it. Just give some 50-50 balls to Bryson Green. Dark Ray, Tretch needs to hold on to the ball. Yes. He fumbled again. It did go out of bounds, but my goodness. JB says Justin needs to cut Rajiv's mic. Every room is a B or higher. JB, I love when JB's in here because he just throws it out there, man. That's fair. And you know what, JB? I'm an optimistic guy. I look for the positive in everything. And I'll tell you why I want to give some B's today. Because I don't think any of those rooms are getting B's next week. And I'm trying to honestly pump myself up for this Alabama game. And I'm trying to find every little morsel of positivity that I can to hold on to some hope that we can beat Alabama next week.
I don't know if there's another room that's getting a B from me for the remainder of our grade.
I mean, that's pretty typical.
When we go to the punter, the punter and kicker, if I can break them up from special teams,
we will.
Those two get an A.
They definitely did. Okay, let's go offensive line, Justin.
You know, if we were going off the first drive, it would have been an A. The first couple of run plays, they just absolutely murdered South Dakota and just shoved them like 3 yards back.
The line of scrimmage literally moved like 5 yards upfield. It was beautiful.
And I was like, well, okay, is this how it's going to be today? And then halfway through the third quarter, I look and South Dakota has outrushed us. And it's like, what the hell is going on? Honestly, I don't know, like, it's hard for me to know unless we see the all 22, just how, like, what the issue is, if it's blocking or if it's vision with the running game. I don't think that the run blocking was terrible, but I also know it wasn't good. So for me, I would say it's probably a C-. I think that we left yards probably out there. I think that we should be far more dominant against a team like this. This is a team that old Wisconsin would have just run it down their throat, and we probably would have had 250 yards rushing.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Is that we're not getting those big chunk plays from the running back room, and really just that's initial burst and that initial push isn't showing up consistently. It's a C+ for me because I think pass blocking was actually pretty good. And the grades, the PFF grades bear that out as well. I know some people aren't fans of PFF, but the grades from a pass blocking perspective were pretty good. The run blocking was a little bit weaker. So I would agree with that. Did you want to do anything different on tight end? I kind of looped tight ends with my wide receivers, but I mean, I think it was kind of a.
I mean, yeah, they didn't have a great week. I mean, they weren't overly productive. Did anyone even have a catch in the tight end position this week?
I'm sure someone did. I don't have those stats.
It really wasn't. I mean, if it wasn't anything special. I know they had a false start again. So.
And the answer is no. No one got any catches.
At least it's not Nelson getting one, so I'm happy with that. Right. He actually played pretty well, but overall, I think the tight ends are a work in progress. So I don't really grade them super harshly right now because it's a young room. Mm-hmm. Like Ashcraft should be a redshirt freshman right now, and he's effectively starting. Nowakowski is a guy who is like he plays hard, but he's not a guy that was ever expected to be a tight end. Like he came in, I think, as like a linebacker.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. There's not going to be a B in this one. I'll tell you that, JB. D line, Justin, go ahead, give it to me. What's your D line?
Well, I'm going to break out Hills, and I'm going to give him an A because yet again he flashed and got in the backfield and was disruptive and picked up a second sack. I think he also had a couple tackles for losses, if I'm not mistaken. However, everybody else, good Lord, like this room is just killing me right now. It's so frustrating to watch them. I would say D for that against an FCS school. They should be dominant, and to get absolutely abused for a drive in the third quarter, like that's where you get your chance to stomp on their throat coming out of the half, and you just basically rolled over and played dead for a drive for them to put 7 on the board. Yeah, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Hills. I actually have a C- for this group, but that's only because of Hills. I would have given it a D, flat D. He got 2 jumps because Hills was really good. Now I will say that 3rd and 12 that he had that they actually ended up getting a run, 3rd and 10. Hills got blocked to the ground, but he actually kind of missed that tackle, and he could have stopped that play. That was the one error that he had. I thought that it was kind of blatant, but nonetheless, Hills had a good day. But you're right. I mean, we're not. This offensive line, again, for an FCS team, good. Consider it to be a MAC offensive line. That's still not good enough against a MAC. That's what happens now 2 weeks in a row, basically, against a MAC, if you will, offensive line. We're just not getting the push. We're just not getting the disruption. Can we please see more Dylan Johnson? I'm sorry, but 6 snaps is not enough. Even if he is not as good as anyone out there, give him a chance. Give more people a chance. I want to see more Brandon Lane. I want to see more of Dylan Johnson. I want to see more of Elijah Hills.
I just feel like he's not going to get washed out. Like, I just feel like he's strong enough. He's probably stronger than every defensive lineman we have on the current roster. Like,
and I think that, and I know that Robert Sorensen, he's in the chat. He was, I think, doing a rewatch. I'm very curious, and I haven't rewatched the entire game yet, and I will, but I felt like, and again, this is just my initial while I was watching it. I felt like there was a few snaps where I saw Lane and Hills, and I'm like, that was actually really good. I felt like that their D line they were held up. They didn't get swallowed up. The linebackers were able to make plays. I actually liked when I saw both those guys in there, and it only happened a handful of times, if that. That's not enough. I just want to see more. I don't really need to see a ton of Ben Barton and Kurt Neal. Now, those guys are role players. Those guys are really big parts of the team, but mix it up. I like that there were 3 down linemen at times, because I said that last week. I think we needed to have a little bit more of that. And yes, Matthew Anderson says SDO line was massive, by the way. They returned almost everybody. They returned 9 offensive starters. Their O-line is good. It's still, our D-line still has to be better. It's just not good enough. And I really want to see more people getting in there. Linebackers, Justin. If you want to split them up, you can. Give me your overall take, and anyone else that you want to see kind of getting in there.
I don't think guys played enough for me to break them out on this one. I'll give a shout out to Tack Curtis and to Allegro for really flashing when we needed it, making plays when we were in a really tough spot after that muffed punt. But honestly, this group overall through the first couple of weeks for me, I think I gave them a C- last week, and I think that they're probably a C- again at best. They have not been good enough. For guys that are supposed to be kind of the stars of our defense, the edge guys have had next to 0 disruption so far, and the interior guys seem to consistently be missing and making bad reads in the run defense. And one of those huge plays that we got gashed on, Chaney took a bad angle and got abused by their running back. Jaheim Thomas didn't do a great job on that same play. So, I mean, they're just not playing up. Like, these are guys we thought potentially were stars, and they just look terrible so far.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that thing about the outside guys just not getting disruptive plays. I feel like, how often do we ever hear John Pius's or Leon Lowry's name called? We really don't. Daryl Peterson, their names aren't getting called. We're just not seeing enough activity from them. I still like Leon Lowry. I said all summer that I thought he was going to be the guy that hopefully, led us in sacks. I don't really see that happening, but I do feel like there are flashes. And yes, I'm glad you mentioned Tackett Curtis and Christian Allegro. Tackett Curtis is going to get a lot of minutes next week, or a lot of snaps. Jake Chaney cannot play for the first half against Alabama. He is going to do that. So yeah, I feel like there is a lot left to be desired out of this linebacker room. That I'm hoping that as they continue to play together, they gel together. But what I want to see is more young snaps. Get those guys out there. Get Curtis out there. Get Allegro out there. Let's get the young guys out there to see what they can do, because it's not really working with the Jake Cheneys of the world, with the Daryl Petersons of the world, and we need to get those other guys. So for me, linebackers was basically, it was a B- only because of Curtis and Allegro bringing it up. Again, if I was just rating the whole room, it would have been a C at best. But I thought Tackett Curtis, man, credit to that guy. He comes in after, like you said, no one really knew where was he healthy? He wasn't really listed in those early two deeps, and he just came in and played extremely well. He played with his hair on fire, and I love that passion. Boy, does he have speed, sideline to sideline speed as well.
Mm-hmm. Message here from Lookdown Badgers. Hills has as many sacks as the linebackers combined. They need to be more disruptive. Yes, Ryan, I intentionally mispronounced your screen name because you're hanging out in our chat. All right.
Thank you.
No, I think those guys really flashed, and I'd like to see the young guys get more reps, because I think they need whatever athleticism they're going to get on the field. Now, can you kind of bait Tackett and Allegro maybe because they're young guys that aren't as seasoned? Possibly. You might be able to mess with their eyes a little bit and get them out of position. But I also would like to see them make mistakes at 100 miles an hour and still maybe blow some things up, versus guys that just seem indecisive all the time. And that's what we're seeing a lot from the linebackers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Cornerbacks. How'd you feel?
I thought they were good. I thought they were. We really didn't get beat in the passing game in this. Like a couple of times as just running back passes. Hallman he should have had a pick.
Absolutely should have had a pick.
And I think that the funny thing is like you see just how they actually target him one time, and like he's just sitting there waiting for the ball effectively, because he didn't bite on the move at all. Then you have Forkerin, who I thought was solid again. Hopefully Lucas is fine. I think we're seeing very quickly that he is basically coming in and taking Forkerin's spot. But Lucas is a freak. Like we're talking a guy who has got high-end draft pick written all over him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of time with him. I think he's starting by midseason. Like it just feels that way with him. Like he had like 30 snaps or something like that, didn't he?
Yeah, he actually did. He did play quite a bit. Yes, so he had 26 snaps.
26. So he's 26 under.
Snaps.
And that was with him being out injured a little bit. So he probably would have had 35 plus snaps at corner had he not gotten dinged up on that play. He's going to be a dude. I think that I'm really high on the corners. I'll say B plus. I don't think anybody really had a big game-changing play, but I thought they were very consistent in coverage. I think that athletically, that this is a team that they just couldn't be challenged on. Honestly, what should have happened in this game is we need to trust our corners, because they're good enough to shut down a team like this and just play on an island. And we need to do more of that.
Mm-hmm. Agreed completely. B plus. Really nothing more to add to that. I totally agree with you there. Safety. Where are you at on safety? I think overall the secondary did okay yesterday. Yeah. They saved a lot of tackles, by the way.
I thought Wooler was really good.
Yeah, he had to save the linebackers a lot.
Mm-hmm. He was. I think I would probably give them an A, and that's mostly it's a solid A. It's not like there was not a lot of flash plays, but I thought that they cleaned up a lot. I thought Zachman played well and made a couple of plays near the line where he came downhill fast, but the secondary was a plus in this game. And that's why I think it's so frustrating that we didn't have more disruptive plays, because you could have attacked a lot more. Like these guys have it locked down on the back half, and maybe that will change next week. But as of right now, I haven't seen anybody that looks like they're remotely challenging them. And they almost seem bored on the back half. Like they're sitting back there waiting for teams to start throwing the football, and nobody's doing
it. Yeah, I was at an A- just because I didn't give anyone an A from yesterday's game. But I think the secondary is our strength. I would like to. Here's my thing that I want to see, and I mentioned this a little yesterday on Ryan's show. I want to see us take more chances defensively, blitz a bit more. Like why we had the strength of our team is the secondary. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. So if that's the strength of your team, then put the pressure on those guys and rush 6 and let's get to the quarterback more. Let's have more run blitzing. Like, let's disrupt the front line a bit. Yes, that means you're going to have to get out of that zone a bit. You're going to have to put your cornerbacks on an island, but you know what? Put them in those situations. I'm totally okay with blitzing more. And I know we're going to probably have to do that when we get into the schedule. Maybe we didn't do it because we didn't necessarily need to with this game. But what are your thoughts on that? I don't know why we're not doing it more.
I think you want to get the ball back and you want to get the things rolling with the offense, in my opinion. And my perspective on this is simple. You're not hiding anything. Like, if they want to go back and see what your blitz packages are, they're just going back to last season and seeing where you had to manufacture pressure because you didn't have anybody. But you're not getting – it's not like you're getting pressure playing straight up. Like, we're rushing 4. We're getting nothing done right now. So
nothing.
We had 3 sacks in this game. This is a team we should probably have 5 against.
So you agree we need to be blitzing more?
Yeah. I think this is a team that just I want to see the defense just to be dominant and get them off the field. Like, don't putz around with this. Just attack. First, second down, they're probably running it, so go after them. Like, don't be afraid to leave your guys out there because you have the type of secondary that you can get away with it. I still think this is one of the best secondaries in the Big Ten. Like, I think you can get some flexibility in the front 7 because of the guys you have in the back half. Like, legitimately, I think Hallman's going to get drafted. Lucas will get drafted unless something crazy happens there. Wooler's going to get drafted. Zachman will probably get a opportunity maybe as like a DFA.
Yep, undrafted free agent. Yeah, for sure.
So,
we're in agreement there. We just need to see more of it. We need to see more of it because we have the people in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through a few superlatives, and then we'll touch on Alabama. Game ball. Who's your game ball going to, Justin?
It's Cade Yakimelli. Like, I thought he ran really hard. I thought he ran well. I would have liked to see him get the ball more, and it's kind of shocking I'm giving it to a guy who only had 8 carries. Like, it seems ridiculous that that's the case. But obviously, offensively, the only other person I think I can really give it to would be CJ Williams. And even didn't he have a drop earlier in the game too on this one too?
I don't know that he had a drop. No, he didn't have a drop.
Maybe I'm just still remembering last week, but
he didn't have a drop.
He played well in this game. But I think that I give it to Cade because I think we need to see something out of the running game.
So I agree, Cade, but I'm going to go honorable mention to Tackett Curtis. I think that he played really well. He had 5 tackles, and he had 4 of them were like considered stops, like big defensive kind of stops, a failure of an offensive play. I think Tackett Curtis really had a great game and something I was really happy with. Biggest disappointment yesterday?
Honestly, it's gonna be offensive for me. Like, I'm tired of watching us look like we don't have a clue when Longo's offenses were consistently averaging in the mid-30s at North Carolina, and here it feels like we can't we're stuck in neutral. Like, we're revving the engine, but nothing's happening, and it's like, what's going on? Like, are we? I realize North Carolina had a few more pros probably at the skill position spots, but it just seems like we don't know what we're doing.
How are you feeling about that 30 points a game prediction now,
I'm
Justin?
feeling very poorly about that. Unless they really turn up, we're not remotely touching that.
The muff punt was my biggest disappointment, and I just felt like that put us in a situation where we were controlling the game to where all of a sudden we were in a tough situation. But going with that, the next one, biggest surprise, right after that muff punt, that defense, 7 straight plays down inside the 10-yard line. They didn't give up a single yard. Mm-hmm. That's impressive. That's really, really impressive. And that is that bend but don't break thing. So yes, there is some positive.
7 yards.
Huh?
They lost 7.
Then there was a penalty. They literally didn't gain a single yard. They didn't get any positive yards on that. That's very impressive. I don't care who you're playing with the 9 returning starters. That was something that was big. Any other biggest surprises for you?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, there's the young guys playing. I was happy to see the young guys get. I was honestly kind of surprised that we saw Dupree and them play late in this one, because I was expecting them to be like, well, we're not going to put them out there with only a 2-touchdown lead. But
I mean, obviously, I think the plan.
I'm glad they got in.
The plan would have been to play them a lot more. Obviously, had we been up, after halftime, and we were thinking, okay, we're going to come out the second half and really blow them out, they would have played a lot more.
You could have created that by simply just having any level of aggressiveness after the first quarter, and that's the problem.
Yes,
you're screwing up your own opportunity to play the young guys when you're just like, well, let's just sit on the ball. Let's waste 7 minutes on a drive that ends up netting nothing. All right, that's awesome. I love just feeling like I could have just walked out of the room for 20 minutes and come back in and be like, oh, wow, we're still sitting here, huh? Ah, cool.
Last one, play of the day. Positive or negative? I'm going to go positive. I'm going to say that pass to the pass down the sideline. Was it the first drive where TVD hit Vinny Anthony? Was that the first drive or the second drive? I don't remember which one it was. But that play down the sidelines, that was a beautiful ball from Tyler Van Dyke. Rolling out to his right, beautiful ball, and a great catch from Vinny Anthony. Tiptoe on the sidelines. That to me was the play of the day. The other thing I'll say is the defensive stand, again, which I already mentioned after the muff punt.
And I'll take the negative, the 35-yard touchdown run where I'm watching a guy weave back and forth against the defensive. Listen, other than him, the other 11 best athletes that were on that field should have all been Wisconsin defenders, and nobody made a play. And it just drives me nuts seeing that, where it's like, listen, this guy's not outrunning you. There's probably 3 guys in this field on Wisconsin's side that are faster than him. Make a freaking tackle.
I mean, yeah. I will say, I think Thomas was held on that play, but still, it is what it is. We move ahead to next week. We talk a little bit about that. So Keith Holcomb, our resident Alabama fan, says, of course I want Bama to win, but weird things happen when you go on the road. Parker Moss says, I think Bama struggling with USF early has me cautiously optimistic. I hope they can bring the same intensity early on that USF did. Pressure. Got to rattle number 4 early and often. Will Hannah, I agree with you, take a chance with secondary and play pressure with the DL and linebackers. So yesterday there was an interesting day in the conference. I'm going to quickly, a couple quick things. Obviously, Michigan got smoked by Texas. That's not really much of a surprise, although I am surprised because I actually bet on Michigan because I thought Michigan's defense would be far superior. Penn State struggled. Iowa lost. Nebraska rolled, which they're ranked now, which I absolutely hate. Illinois beat your mighty Kansas from bad quarterback play. USC rolled. And Oregon had some problems once again. A lot of people are looking at Oregon kind of like they're looking at us. They're 2-0, but they've struggled through 2 games. Anything jump out at you yesterday from the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, the Big Ten has kind of looked like an eyesore so far, other than Ohio State. I mean, I called the Michigan game. I knew that was going to happen. Michigan, they could be a good 9-3 team, but they're going to be a 9-3, 8-4 team. Well, I take that back. They could potentially beat Oregon, unless Oregon kicks it up a notch because they do not have it right now. But Michigan, Texas was going to be a loss. Texas is probably in the national title game this year. I think they're one of the 2 or 3 best teams, and I think they're going to have a good shot at being there. I don't know what totally to make of Ohio State. They seem dominant. They absolutely crushed Western Michigan, and then Georgia is Georgia. Unless they stub their toe on somebody in the SEC, they're probably going to be in the title game.
Yeah. Zach Bart's great comment. Wisconsin and other fans, let's all take a moment to laugh at Notre Dame. Yes, let's do that. Listen, we understand what it's like to be in a battle with a MAC team because it's happened last week and almost not really a MAC team, but something. That was crazy. But one thing Oregon's confounding me a little bit. When I look at the teams in the Big Ten, who the best teams are, Ohio State and Oregon coming into the season were that class. Mm-hmm. I hate to say this, but the 2 best teams in the conference are looking right now. It's Ohio State, and who else looks great is Nebraska. I hate to say it, but Nebraska, dude, look, I mean, I don't like it either, but Nebraska looks fantastic.
A terrible Colorado team, though.
Okay, I'd agree with you because Colorado was way overhyped, but you still have to actually play well. And other teams in the conference aren't playing well. Nebraska is. Yeah. You got to give them credit.
I agree with Chris. I would say USC right now. I would have.
Okay, that's fair. USC, that's a good point. I
think they're more polished. Right. So what I'll say is that I think when I look at Colorado is I think that you see a couple of skill players that paint everyone's perception of them. They're awful in the trenches. Absolutely awful. And Nebraska's got it together enough now where they're solid in the trenches. And that's enough to just undress a team like Colorado. Like you can just punch it down their throat because they're so bad in the trenches that it doesn't matter if you're not truly dynamic. They just can't stop you. That said, they got the job done. They definitely look better, improved from last year. Offensively, they really struggled last year. I think people are getting a little too hyped right now based off of what they've seen Raiola play against. It would be interesting to see him against an actual plus defense where they can do some things and they can actually disrupt what they want to do offensively. But we'll see. USC is going to be interesting. I want to see USC get punched in the mouth once and see how they react. LSU is not the team to provide that. I feel like LSU has been a little soft since their title year. But we'll see how that goes too. Like last year, they were a finesse offense that just scored on everybody.
Yeah,
not a lot of defense.
Everyone's right on USC. I'm sorry, I forgot USC in my little thinking of the Big Ten. USC has played amazing so far. Listen, Nebraska, they're already ranked, and I said when they played Ohio State, they're going to be a top 5, top 10 team. Their next 6. Listen to this: Northern Iowa, Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers at home, not on the road, Indiana, and then Ohio State. They have 5 games that they're going to roll through.
I don't think they are. Indiana looked really good. I mean,
Indiana did look really good, but they should roll through.
Even Illinois
is that like
Nebraska's improved from last year.
It just annoys me because Nebraska is doing what I wanted to do, which was dominate the first couple of weeks, and they don't have a difficult schedule. They're going to have a better record than us, hands down. I really hope that we beat them.
I will say this: Illinois is not a pushover because Kansas is a legitimately good team, and they played them tough. Like they played them physical. Kansas got out of what was working for them because they were gashing them the heck out of them with the run. And Daniels just had probably his worst game I've ever seen him play at quarterback. Like he was just sloppy. He was short arming throws. Like I haven't seen him be that kind of out of his depth in a very long time. That said, they didn't get it done. Illinois got it done. They got a big victory. That's a nice win for them. Mm-hmm. They've got the only win over a ranked opponent, I believe, in the conference, don't they? I don't think anybody else has played anyone ranked, have they?
Yeah, they probably have played them, but yeah. No, I mean, look, and I agree. Illinois got a much deserved win. And
Iowa
Kansas quarterback looked rough yesterday. I know that you like him, but boy, did he look like he couldn't throw a single pass.
He played bad. That's the worst I've seen him. That's the worst I've seen him play in 3 years of watching him play.
And look, nothing would please me more than to see Nebraska not go 5-0 in this stretch. I'm just saying it's likely, but you're right. Rutgers, Illinois, not gimmies for sure.
Well, I just think that here's the deal. They're going to face defenses that are substantially better than anything they've faced so far. And that's going to it's going to be interesting to see how their offense reacts when suddenly things get far more difficult for them to actually move the football.
I agree.
Will is going to see a lot more complexity too going forward because now they're going to have film on them.
Right. I put a poll up on Twitter yesterday. I wanted to go over the results. I just asked a simple question. How are you feeling about the Badgers' chances of beating Alabama? And there were four answers. Definitely a win. We could surprise them. Extremely unlikely, and never, ever, ever. So the winner was extremely unlikely, 55%. 23% of you said never, ever, ever. 18% said we could surprise them, and 2.7%, and no, that was not me, said definitely a win. I actually would have guessed. I agree. It's extremely unlikely that we're going to beat them, but I did put I actually voted for we could surprise them because I think hopefully who knows. We've played 2 games, Justin, and now we have Alabama. Here come the Crimson Tide, 9 a.m. next week. We're going to be doing a 3 big things this week, and we'll do our official predictions there. We talked last week about what we needed to see from this team to feel like we had a chance against Alabama. I think we can both agree we didn't really see that because of the run defense and their inability to really get any push. And of course, our inability to score a lot, be a potent offense. Do you, as we sit here today, less than a week out from this game, think that we have any shot at beating Alabama, honestly. Do you think we have any shot?
Well, here's the deal. I kind of mentioned in the post game that I felt like if we end up having like a game like we did against Ohio State last year, I'm going to be super frustrated with this team because it's going to be like, why is that level of intensity not there in these first 2 weeks when you guys badly need to grow? And coming into this game, I need to see a substantial jump up in intensity, in just level of play and aggression from this team than what we've seen so far. Like they're just not getting it done from the standpoint of looking like they came to play. Like this is a team that, and somebody had said that I thought that our guys need to play like Superman. It's not that they need to play like Superman. I've seen what Wisconsin looks like when they have a dominant defense. We don't look like we have a remotely dominant defense right now.
We don't have the players.
We look like we're kind of searching it out all the time for the first half, and then we finally figure out what we want to do, and then it's like, okay, now let's turn the screws. Well, how about if you're going to be really good on defense, that you just kind of have, like, you can be somewhat aggressive and not just go all out and go zero coverage and say, screw it, we're sending everybody. Like, you can do some things and still make it complicated for them while feeling out the game. And it feels like we're always letting the other team dictate, and I just don't want to see that. I think that in this game, if we're going to win this game, you have to make Milroe uncomfortable. You have to make him put the ball up for grabs a couple of times, and you have to be able to stop their run game. Because if they're just going to run it down our throat, we're done.
The only chance that we have of beating Alabama is playing the perfect game and having a lot of breaks just break our way. Turnover, Milroe makes a bad pass. They fumble the ball in an inopportune area. We have to by far win the turnover margin. There's so many things that have to happen. I always believe we have a chance to win any game, and I will say we have a chance, but it is extremely low, and it is extremely unlikely that we have any shot at Alabama because of what we've seen the first 2 weeks. Can they play up to their opponent? They probably will. Are we going to give up 50 points, Alabama? Probably not. But the reality is they're going to score points, and we're going to struggle to score points on that defense. Even if we do open it up, and if we do throw it downfield, our receivers are going to be going up against 5-star cornerbacks. Our receivers everyone on that team is a 4 or 5-star, and they are loaded. They just are, and that's just a thing that we're at home, so that home field advantage can hopefully give us something and have us play a little bit better. The guys should be up for it. I mean, it's Alabama. It's a game that people have been looking forward to for a long time. There is value in that. And I will never completely count out anything. I'm 100% not picking a victory for the Badgers. We are going to lose this game, but I just want to see us compete. And I want to see us, as I said, going into the Ohio State game last year when the three of us were at the game, I said, I just want to be in it when jump around happens. I don't want it to be a foregone conclusion that the game is over when the fourth quarter begins. I just want to feel like we have a chance. And I'm hoping, that is what I'm hoping for. Do I expect that? I don't, honestly. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm super optimistic. I don't expect that. But I just really hope that's what we get, that we see a little bit of life that can propel us forward. We all thought this was going to be a loss. We have a bye week. We have some time to clean things up, and then I'll be at the USC game in 3 weeks. That's going to be the game where I feel like, okay, can we still have a special season? Can we still pull something out and do something cool and win some games that we shouldn't win? This is likely not going to be it. But I hope that those of you that are going to go, it's going to be a great environment. Hopefully the fans are up for it. The students are there, and we can really give them a fight, Justin. We just got to give them a fight. It's not going to be a game we're going to win, but I just don't want to feel like it's one of those games against like the Ohio States where we just get run off the field and we lose by 40 points. That'll just be really demoralizing for the fans, for the players, for everyone in the program. And I just really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I am in agreement with you on that. We're going to wait till Thursday to do it? Or
we'll wait. We'll wait until our three big things for predictions.
All right.
But we'll be back in the middle of the week for three big things to go through. Yeah, predictions for the Alabama week. I'm going to be putting out a betting lines show this week as well. Just a quick 10-minute thing, just to kind of give some lines for the week, if anyone's interested in that kind of thing. Justin, final thoughts before we close the show today.
Big week. Everybody get your beer.
Get your beer.
Get something, whatever makes you feel better to drown your sorrows in, get that lined up. Or maybe if I'm completely wrong, get something that, makes to get something to celebrate with, whatever it takes. Just find yourself something to enjoy the weekend. But big one coming up, guys, is this is a once in a lifetime kind of game, meaning we may never see Alabama in our lifetime play it in Madison again. So
I just really wish that there was more hype and more positivity going into it, which there's no reason for
it's
it. Like
2 undefeated teams. There should be.
It's funny. All the Foxes, Fox all day on the NFL today. They had they're just blowing up that game. Alabama, Wisconsin. I'm thinking, oh man, all these people are like, ooh, Wisconsin's 2-0. They haven't watched us yet, and they're doesn't look that great.
We haven't broke 30 points yet either.
Look, and we were talking about maybe a 40 burger for this past weekend. Well, the 40 burger ain't coming up next weekend for sure against Alabama. Look, it's one of those weeks where I hope that we can. It's a measuring stick, as Luke Fickell said in his press conference at the end after the game. He said these kind of games are measuring sticks. You see where you're at. We've got a long way to go in this program. We've got a long growth. We are in a rebuilding situation. I believe in Luke Fickell. I believe in what he's doing. The coordinators are another discussion, but I think that let's please compete. Let's do what we can. Let's make the energy. If you're listening to this and you're going to the game, we've got to have the most hyped place ever, because it can make those small little differences in a game. So be as loud as you can. Tell the people next to you to be as loud as you can. And hopefully, we can find a way to get a win next week against the mighty Alabama Crimson Tide. With that, we'll be back on Wednesday with our 3 Big Things episode, or Thursday, one of those 2 days. But look out for that. And as always, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.